a guest on the podcast. I'd like to introduce you to, you know her as Research BTS, but her name is Nicole. And Nicole, say hi.
Hello. Happy to be on here.
Yeah, and we're gonna have fun. We're gonna talk about her research, all those amazing maps she does, and get to know her and everything she does a little bit more and get into details. You all sent some pretty amazing questions, and we're gonna go through all of them. Don't worry, we're not skipping a single one, I hope, and you'll get your answers. And yeah, so let's get started. I wanted to ask, like, your research under what field of study is it?
So I'm a sociology major, but definitely looking at like so many different parts of it. So not just like sociology in the most traditional sense, but certainly observing and that sort of stuff, and interviewing and surveying, but like looking deep in the data type of research to help tell stories about people and the way they interact and behave. So like I've always loved data and analytics and visualization type of data, and that's what I did when I studied the One Direction fandom. And I think more people should definitely use that and I think they are starting to use it, but in terms of fandom, there's like so many things we can learn about it. So it's one aspect that I'm definitely inserting as part of my studies for sure. And as you've seen, it's been really fun, like showing people the kinds of information we could get about a fandom just by using things like that. So
yeah, it's definitely very like the visualization of it is really, it really brings everything forward. Like it makes everything so clear, and you see like the impact, and you see it spreading, and it's
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I tell people all the time, like we hear a lot about like different numbers and figures and stats, but when we see something with our own eyes, like it just makes it even more impactful to us. And so that's why I love doing it. Yeah,
I have very few people let me talk about BTS today in real life. My dad loves music, so he lets me show him like their music side, but only he doesn't care about lyrics, and only if they dance. If they just sit and sing, it's not it doesn't work. And my brothers like play along, but I have a cousin who is in the US, and he's like this really big like high-tech guy. He was in a whole bunch of startups. One of them was actually, it was called Mobley. It started on the same year as Instagram, and they were like big competitors. They had like Leonardo DiCaprio as someone who put money in, and Serena Williams, if I'm not mistaken. And like it was a very big company, and they did, unlike Instagram, they did videos, and the whole point was for you to share a video. Like if you go to a concert, for you to record and immediately share it with your people who have the same interests, not your friends.
Okay.
And I was like, who the hell? And this is like 2008, 2009. I was like,
right.
Who the hell is gonna watch from this crappy phone a video in 144 pixels? Like no one will do that. And fast forward 15 years later, me watching videos in 144 pixels.
It's amazing too, right? Because I mean, like 2008 doesn't even feel that far away, but like technology and like social media is just like it's really progressed and gotten bigger, and we're using these tools in so many different ways, and they become so relevant to us. And I couldn't even imagine that either. So
so he's like an early adapter of stuff. So I sent him some of your graphs, like so he can see like how big ARMY is, how big BTS. And he plays along. He like comments and stuff. It takes him like 3 days, but then he comments like.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think they're very impressive, and they really help like showcase a lot of trends and stuff. When you tracked One Direction, were you looking at something specific?
So it feels, it's like weird because it feels like I'm talking about ARMY, but essentially it was focused on how they dominated and influenced worldwide trends. So it like feels like I'm talking about ARMY, but at the time, like that was big thing with One Direction too. So we see a lot of like similarities, but there are differences. But yeah, so it was for a couple of weeks, every single day, just like I similarly do now. I was up all the time tracking all the worldwide trends they created, and whenever they created it, I ran network analysis on them to kind of see their interactions with each other, and to see like their different types of like clusters within the fandom, and how they pushed information through to each other. And so, which is similar to like what I do now too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at the time we weren't really looking at things like that, as far as research. And you know, with One Direction, I think what's super interesting is they didn't create as many worldwide trends. Like ARMY, it's so normal now, like, and when we talk about it, like, oh
You're
yeah,
just talking, you create like
yeah, right, exactly. It's like, oh, okay, like, here's another trend. Like it doesn't really surprise anybody. But I think with One Direction fans at the time, I think as far as I remember, it was about like maybe a 2-week period, and they created maybe like 30 trends, something like that, which like at the time seemed a lot. And I think when I started tracking trends for ARMY, that's probably what like really shocked me is like 150 a month. Like that was crazy to me, only because when I was doing One Direction work, I thought 30 was a lot for 2 weeks, but it's nothing now. But yeah, so I was looking in the way they created these trends, and looking into the different patterns that were found within the fandom in the way that they shared this information. So kind of similar to the way I do now, but it's definitely on a much larger scale with ARMY. So it's cool to kind of look at what I did before and kind of compare it to what's going on right now with the fandom. So
yeah, it's cool that you get to like build on it and like take the same thing and see how it differs between the two fandoms.
exactly.
I don't get to do that. My research for my PhD was like a direct continuation of my master.
Okay.
So it's like it's the same thing for 6 years. Yeah. I want. What was it? Do you only use Twitter or?
As far as like BTS related stuff, yeah, I was thinking about putting out on Instagram and whatnot, but I mean, like doing the social media stuff, like especially what fan bases do, it's a lot of work. And you know, I don't work with a team. It's just, I almost feel like it's more of a personal account for me, even though I know people call it a fan base, but it's just me. And so, and I also work full time and have like a bunch of things going on outside of this. So I'm super busy, and I think Twitter just takes all my attention anyway. So that's kind of all I focus on. But I mean, like me personally, not as Research BTS, I have other social media accounts, but for the time being, Research BTS will stay on Twitter.
I also think like each fandom, like each part of the fandom on each social media platform is so different.
Yeah.
Like the way they interact, what they care about, what trends for them. So, but it feels like Twitter is like the home for ARMY.
Yeah, I mean, fans are definitely most active there, and that's where they're most visible. I think it's with the ability to do things like the worldwide trends. Obviously, ARMY is able to be seen and heard a little bit better, but they obviously exist in so many other platforms. But, you know, in general, all social media has different goals and different purposes, and we definitely see that with ARMY. Yeah, I mean, you're so true. Like, what we see ARMY doing on Twitter is like not the same thing that they'll be doing on Instagram for sure, and certainly not Facebook either. And you know, we see a little bit of a comparison with Weverse, but Weverse is its whole like craziness on there. Like it's so hard to.
It's also brand new. Like it's not shaped yet. It still has so many bugs and no. It's like there's no cop. Like no one is in control of it. So everyone just goes all over the place.
Yeah, it's not the most interactive type of platform, whereas you have like Twitter where fans are super engaged with each other especially, and so the whole culture that's cultivated there, I think we like really see the power of the fans on a platform like that. That's why I love it on there. It's so fun.
Yeah, same. Like it's such a new experience for me. Like all those interactions and getting to know people, and like now with COVID or like social distancing and hardly seeing family and friends, and my mom, like I'm an introvert, so I don't mind, like,
Right.
It's perfect.
I am
like excuses.
Yeah, no, same here. I am too. Like, I love being at home all day and like just being on Twitter, and like that's totally fine with me. I don't need to go out into the world. So
Yeah. So my mom was like, "Aren't you bored?" I'm like, "No, no, I'm good. I'm good."
I know, it's like, well, I mean, the fandom just keeps you busy like 24/7. There's always something happening. It like never ends. So,
It never ends. It never
no,
ends. It's a whole like constant cycle of news,
yeah.
and even going to sleep is problematic.
It I know some days I'm like, should I go to sleep? And I get so nervous about it because I know like something's gonna happen like when I'm in bed, like, and it does like almost all the time. So
Yeah, like you wake up and you miss the villa, or
yeah, well, I love those tweets, right? Of like you see people who are like waking up and kind of like the realization hits them that they missed something. It's like
yeah,
always like interesting to see. But sleep is good, and I'm sure a lot of us wish that we had more of it. So
yes, definitely. I always miss somehow. I always miss it for when we chart the whole discography, like after, for example, the People's Choice Awards.
mm-hmm.
A few months, like it feels like it was 2 months ago, but like half a year
It
ago.
was back in like November or
Yeah, in
something.
November. So like it started with anger because
Yeah.
we're like upset and people are like digging and finding out that like they could decide by themselves like what to do and who wins, and like people were so angry, and then from that to the cipher party, and
Yeah.
then to streaming the entire discography. I didn't sleep at all that night. I was so
Yeah.
hyped.
I think everyone was at during that time. I actually I don't know if you've seen this, but I actually was running data for People's Choice Awards because there was a BTS conference that happened in January in London, and so my thought was, oh, I'm gonna present a study on how powerful fans are when it comes to Twitter voting, and I had like all the data, and I was like, cool, like it's supported, and I think it was really. I mean, looking back now, it's funny, but I do remember being heated about it as well because, right before the award show started, I tweeted something like, "Oh, super excited about People's Choice Awards. No surprise. Like I was running data; they're probably gonna win anyway. All that kind of stuff." And then my phone had died, but I was somewhere else. And then like I think after the award show, I was like, well, let me like charge my phone, whatever. So I charged it, and I woke up to or I saw a bunch of notifications, and I was like, what is going on? And I couldn't believe that they lost. And yeah, everyone started uncovering like all these different types of things. But I myself was really frustrated because I was like, well, I have this data
Yeah.
that kind of backs up that they should have won, and I know other people had data about it too. But hopefully that's something I've been talking to people about this, about revisiting and potentially publishing this type of data. But yeah, it certainly brings into question the processes of all these different award shows, which obviously Army have been raising for quite a bit now. So yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about the conference in London. That's what's it called? The Rebus
It was the
R3, right?
So a lot of folks from the R3, so the R3 is the Rhizomatic Revolutionary Review. So
Never knew
that's
how to say that word. It had to be there.
I don't even know if I'm saying it right. It's a tough one, but in short, the R3. So that's a new peer review journal focused just on BTS and ARMY, which is so exciting because I think a lot of people are starting to do research on BTS and ARMY. So to have at least a collection that keeps all of that work together, I think is great. But the BTS conference in January was it was in London, and it actually had a bunch of people, like the creators of it and the folks who put it together, as well as a lot of the presenters are a part of the R3. But yeah, it was kind of the first time we saw people coming together from all over the world, just sharing research and information and stories about BTS and ARMY. It was a ton of fun, and I hope that we have that again in the near future, in whatever way we're able to do it. But yeah, I
think I've never heard about anything like it, like coming together as fans, but from an academic point of view and presenting research, and it must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was one of the best experiences ever. I mean, I think for everyone who went there. I know a lot of people I spoke to, it was like we came there and we all kind of knew that we had common interest in like having this, you know, research academic perspective on BTS, but you know, like it really did feel like home almost. It was weird, like going there and just connecting with everybody and being able to share ideas and like openly discuss like different topics. It was so much fun and just cool to find like-minded people and others who share the same interest from an academic perspective, because even me for a long time I thought I was the only one who had an interest but didn't even know how to, like, how would I go about finding people who wanted to study similar things. And I hear that from people a lot who recently joined Twitter and just discover like this entire BTS academic community. Yeah, I mean, unless, like, I think I found the conference because I got on Twitter, and it was almost just perfect timing that I started my Twitter account and started following a bunch of people. And I know that in Korea they held a BTS kind of summit and a lot of those same people also went to the BTS conference. And so I started finding out that there was this whole research community. It was like so fascinating and so grateful to have that network. And so I expect in the next couple months and the next year we're going to see so much work on BTS. So it's great.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this, like, because I think conferences are really, they can be good and bad, because sometimes you go to those massive ones,
Right.
and they're like, everyone is doing their tiny little research that usually doesn't relate to anyone else there, and it's just so boring. But you go because they're considered good because they're so big and massive. And then you have those tiny ones where people do share a bit more of a common interest and common research, but it's never with a passion like BTS, like Army has for BTS.
Right. Yeah.
And here you it's a subject that, like, I think, like, you really get, because even without the research, you love them, you care for it, you're interested in it. There's so much data and so much new things constantly happening, and then you put your own academic spin on it, and it takes it to a new level academic wise.
Yeah.
So you go to a conference like that that's filled with passionate people, not just people that do research in your same field, but they're passionate, and passion is it's electrifying, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was definitely an experience that I'd never had before. And I totally agree, so different from normal conferences that a lot of us students and academics go to. So yeah, there's certainly a lot to learn from there from a conference perspective. But I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I think the passion that fans have, and especially to have that academic twist to it, just like really enhances that experience even more. So
yeah, I think when you go and do research about this stuff, like you did for One Direction, yes, did you find, like, from other people in your field but that do different research, like how do they see it? Because even music wise, like boy bands and pop music has this usually negative connotation, and the people that follow that kind of music have the connotation of screaming, shrilling teenage girls. They're just manic and hysteria and all that. And how, like, doing research on something like that, how did you feel, and what's it look like from the outside?
Yeah, I mean, looking back at it, it all kind of started with my master's. So I go to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV. So I've been a student there forever, and so I feel you.
I've been in the same university for 13 years now.
Yeah, that's like I'm on track to be the same. So so I was doing my master's there on my One Direction thesis, and you know, it obviously all comes down to your faculty and how supportive they are of that topic, and whether or not you can get people to support you and be on your side for it. So you know, for a while when I was doing my master's, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and you know, I think one of the biggest advice that I'd gotten that I really just held close to me was in picking a research topic was to pick something that you're passionate about, because you know, you can talk about it and write about it all day. And,
Yeah.
you know this, right? Like going through a program like a master's or PhD, you do get burnt out a little bit from just thinking about the exact same thing like 24/7. Like you literally like eat, sleep, drink, whatever that topic is. Like I remember dreaming about my thesis like every day. It's like you just couldn't get away from it. And so, I was told to pick something that you love and you're passionate about so that it doesn't like so that you don't start to hate it essentially. And so I struggled with it quite a bit. And I knew I loved, boy bands and One Direction, but I was like, well, I don't know what I could even do a topic about for that. So let me just focus on social media. But, eventually was able to find a way to bring those two together. And I'm lucky that I had faculty in my school to support me in that sense. And whether or not they knew about it, they were super open to learning more about the topic. And then same thing, as I moved into the PhD program, it was, so my master's was in journalism and media studies, but one of my committee members was in the sociology department. So once I joined the department, that faculty member was still super on board. And it's funny, he's an older professor, and you would never think that he would be super interested in anything like K-pop or BTS or anything like that. But the minute I suggested that I wanted to continue doing fan studies and continue with BTS, like he was so excited about it. And he told me, he's like, I don't know who they are, but they're everywhere. He's like, get away from them. When I turn on the TV, they're there. I think it was around the time when they were doing like a lot of US press last year. Like he was so fascinated by it. And I'm super lucky to have faculty who are supportive of it and willing to learn. And it's funny, even during this time in quarantine, that particular faculty member, we were emailing back and forth, and he helped compile a bunch of articles for me just to read. And he told me he had almost read everything already. He was so interested in it. So it's super important to find faculty like that who are just as passionate as you are and open to it. And I'm certainly grateful for that, because I know that that's not the case for everyone. And I've heard stories of some people wanting to study something like BTS, and they have faculty members who are like, no, I don't think that that's really that important, or I don't want to do it. And so again, I'm just super lucky that I have people who are open to it.
Yeah, I think the professor you're under, it's like super, that's just in general, it's like super important, because that's like, we call it your academic parent.
Yeah.
Like your academic father, academic mother. And mine, the reason why I stayed in the university so long and in my research so long is because he's amazing. And he's like the nicest guy. He cares. We went to some conferences together, and we were in Korea actually last year. We went to a conference in, I think it was Gyeongju or something. And we got there, and he's like, he doesn't do, he has some problem with certain foods, like which I love, but he so we went to, and the conference, so like at the time just to eat somewhere and stuff, and we were sitting down, and we were like, it was supposed to be a tour that day, and we both just ditched it and just sat down and talked. And that's tiny a K-pop museum, which actually Namjoon visited like 2 months later or something. So we were talking, and I said, yeah, I'm going to that K-pop museum. And he said, what is it? And then that poor guy, we sat, and for 3 hours I gave him just 101. And he just like listened and soaked it all in. And like 6 months later, I went to his office, and he's like, that band that you like, I saw, my daughter just listened to him, and I saw it. And like, or he's like, or like a month later, it's like, did that guy already go to the army or not yet? Like,
right. Like, yeah, like once you tell people about it, like it's always in their mind, and like they start thinking about like you when it comes to BTS, like, especially nowadays, right, with like BTS and K-pop being a lot in the media. Like I have so many people who aren't BTS fans, but just like friends and acquaintances of mine who are like texting me like, hey, did you know about this? Like, did you see this about BTS? I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, so yeah, it's quite interesting. But no, that's awesome that you had faculty members like that too, because it's so important to have people who are just interested in that.
I think that's even more important than your research field, because that's the person that you have to work with. That's the one you answer to. That's
Yeah.
he's like you need someone like that who's supportive of you and not just trying to dismiss your opinions or treat you badly. Like
Right.
it really has a big impact. So I'm super happy you have people around you that appreciate it. But when you go out to like conferences and stuff, do you well, not so much now in COVID.
Right.
But
Yeah.
did you get like a chance to present it to people outside your university? And
Yeah. So I think in the last year, the only conference I've been to is the BTS conference. And hopefully, obviously, in the next couple months or year, I'll hopefully have an opportunity to do more. But obviously, we'll likely have to do all of this virtually. But I mean, but I will say, I assume the reactions I'm going to get from this, if I present it to more general public, is probably going to be similar to when I was presenting like One Direction research in conferences. They're definitely interesting, even within my university, like going out and doing like little type of presentations around campus, and doing little presentations there. It's people just generally don't expect this to be a research topic, right? And you've touched on this before, like when people think of pop culture and like music in like fandoms, they don't really see it as like a serious topic. And so I remember one moment that sticks with me is at my university they do this like thesis presentation competition where you it's a 3-minute thesis competition. So yeah, you it's like a 2-week long thing where students come and present their research, but you only have like 3 minutes, and there's like all these rounds and stuff. So I don't know why I entered it. I'm pretty sure like my advisor was like, oh, you should just sign up, and I was terrified. And I'm sure you would know, like condensing everything into 3 minutes and trying to explain the entire research it's quite a bit, and it's actually more difficult than people think. But so I entered the first round, and I got into the top 3. So then I moved into like the next one. Eventually I made it into the semifinals, which was held in like an auditorium, which was terrifying. So you can imagine like coming up there and like your screen pops up and the first thing people see is like One Direction. And I remember the screen got pulled up and I could hear people laughing in the crowd. And I was like, oh no. And but I did my thing and ended up getting into the top 3 and went into the final round. So it was a lot of fun. But you know, that was the first time I had ever shown like anybody outside of my department that type of research, and so I understood that people were going to see it as a little bit odd. But I mean the fact that there were judges and like faculty members who are like, oh, okay, like this is pretty good was really encouraging. And so I did a lot more presentations like that, and I think after doing that One Direction work and then now coming into the BTS world and doing it, I feel a lot more confident in that type of work. So I still know that people think that it is a strange type of research topic, but I think once they are open and get a chance to learn a little bit more about what I do and what other people do in relation to BTS and ARMY, I think they start to take it a little bit more seriously, because it is important and tells a lot about our society and has a lot of implications for the way we're moving forward, not just in like technology and social media, but I mean, you know this, right? Like in marketing and promotion, and like there's so much to learn about fandoms, and especially with BTS and ARMY right now. So I hope that more people continue to be open about this type of work, for sure.
I've actually been in contact with a woman from Bloomberg, I think. And she did like her and some other guy, they did a podcast that was all about like it was, the title was BTS, but it actually was K-pop in general, and they just used BTS as clickbait. So I listened to the whole thing. Like most people, I think, cut out after the first 5 minutes because they realized they weren't going to talk about BTS. And I actually listened to the entire thing, and it was so basic, like the stories you constantly hear about how Korea decided to use K-pop and K-drama to assert themselves as a soft power and like as an export, so they invested money in it, and how like idols sell stuff there, and like all those basic stuff that you would know from watching that 20-minute documentary on Netflix or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I contacted her after and I said, no, first I said like, this is clickbait. Why did you put this there? It's like, it's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm sorry you felt that way. We talked about everything we said was true. In fact, I said, yeah, but it has nothing to do with BTS. Like there was so much to talk about regarding BTS and marketing and promotion. And like you said, like there's just so much stuff that they could have gone in so many directions. And
did they mention BTS at all, or just like
the last, maybe the first 2 minutes and the last 2 minutes, like, and it wasn't even like from a marketing standpoint. It was just like to loop them with everything else. It was like really a missed opportunity. So I talked to her, and after that I DM'd her and I said, listen, like they contributed $4.6 billion to the Korean GDP. They everything they promote sells out in minutes. Like Hyundai has a backlog order of 6 months for an SUV. Like it's insane.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I gave her like facts of everything and screenshots, and she was.
That's good. Yeah.
As academics, always the facts.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, and I get it. That's like the frustration of media, right? Is like they only tell like such a small portion of the story. And a lot of us researchers and academic in this community and like the BTS research community always talk about how unless you're really in the fandom and really diving deep into it and interacting with people, like you can only scratch the surface. Like you won't really know like the full story about everything. But I think that's why you see a lot of fans taking it upon themselves to talk about certain things and to release information in their own way, almost kind of like their own media organization, right? Because we can't really rely on traditional media to tell that story.
Hip hop experts.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so, and I mean, the reality of it is like fans are the real experts, right? So we're out there telling our story, and I think that that's awesome. So
yeah. Also, like it really is a missed opportunity, like academia wise. Like there's so much stuff to research and look into. Like when I told my brothers about your research and how excited I was, and I was like, listen, you don't understand. I get to talk to someone, and they were super interested because, and they don't care at all about BTS. But the whole concept of doing research to something like this, when there's so much that the information is out there, and the thing is, like if someone does the research like 10 years from now, it won't be the same. They won't see those trends. They won't know that impact. Like even for me, like we did Army History 101. That's instead of focusing on BTS, we focused on Army and the stuff Army did, stuff that Army had to go through. And like even that, going back 2 years or 1 year, it still felt like, so what actually happened? How did this break down? So to do it like from an academic point of view, that you gotta have all the facts, you gotta see those facts, and to do it like 10 years from now, you can't do that. So it's so important that you and people like you are doing that research now to showcase everything.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I've talked about this so much with so many other researchers and academics, like the issue of like the more time we pass by and not record anything, or like we're just gonna lose all of that, and it's a shame, right? Because even since the beginning of BTS, like fans have played such a huge role, but I know that we don't talk about it enough outside of the fandom, and these are things that people just generally wouldn't know. And so we certainly have to find ways to preserve that history, and I think a lot of fans are doing it in like really cool ways, and like the fact that you guys have that podcast as well, and are documenting that history, but everyone is making their own documentaries, and there's so many websites coming out, and trying to help put all that information together so that we don't lose it. It's super important.
Yeah, it's our history. Like we have to keep track of it and be able to, I think, like to pass it forward, because it lacks in so many aspects of popular music, not just pop, but rock, everything. Like even like Queen or Elton John, like those stories get so distorted over time.
Yeah.
So to have those facts, to have those stories, to try and capture those screenshots and memories and maintain them for the future, because BTS is not some band that's gonna disappear off the face of the planet like 10 years from now. It's not like Gangnam Style that no one will remember, or Old Town Road. It's not, they're not a meme.
Yeah.
They're a movement.
Yeah.
And that movement has to be captured, and doing it with actual facts and academia is one of the most amazing way, I think, to do it, because it's almost indisputable. Like you bring it forward and you paint this narrative of what it was like at this time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I completely agree. And so, yeah, I'm super excited that there's, you know, quite a bit of Army academics and researchers out there who are helping to do that. And hopefully over time, you know, the research that we all do, people are going to take that and then do new research and, you know, hopefully move forward more knowledge and new information in the world as we go on. So, yeah.
Also, like you said before about the visualization of all that data, I think both helps, it helps even Army to understand the power of the fandom. Because before that, like you know that things spread, you know that like news travels and people talk, but you don't see it like so much as a network, like those amazing maps. It really brings it forward, like how powerful that is, how instant that knowledge and information transfer is, and how quickly we share it. Like we say, Army shares a brain cell, and it almost literally a map of that. Like it's almost like a brain map. You can see like all the neurons like lining up. It's
popping up at the exact same time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so beautiful to see that, and scary. It's also scary.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I remember the first time I made one, I was pretty taken aback by it. I thought it was like the most beautiful thing, but I was so freaked out by it. Like, it's definitely grown and like evolved. Like every time I look at those maps, it feels like it gets even bigger. But yeah, I agree with you. I think even myself, honestly, I was just testing it out. It hasn't actually been like a big part of my like research overall. It was just something fun that I thought was like a cool feature as part of this program. And it's TrendsMap, by the way, if people don't know what that program is. It's called TrendsMap. That's what I use. It has all these cool like data analytics features, but one of those features is to make these maps. And so one day I was just playing around with it and wanted to see like what it could do. And I was just so blown away by it. Because and like we've said, we talk all the time about how big Army is, and we're like, yeah, they spread a lot of information like really quickly, like they trend things, but to like see how quickly it is and how organized they are collectively, like on that map, like you said, like you'll see a couple little dots starting and then all of a sudden it like just bursts into light. Like everyone is almost feels like on the same page, and there's this connectedness to it. And so it's just so cool. I'm really glad that people still continue to like it, even though I think someone asked me who isn't an Army, like one of my friends is like, so you do these maps? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, but it looks pretty much exactly the same every time. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, but people like looking at it. I was like, yeah, they seem to love it every time. I don't know. So
it feels like it's a heartbeat, like it's Army's heartbeat. And you put that together like with the GIF that it did, so it like it repeats itself. It literally feels to me like it's Army's like heartbeat, like pumping blood, pumping that information, pumping that hashtags or trends, and it's like it's us responding, like coming to life, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love when people describe it as that. It's like I agree. It's just so beautiful to see like the fandom visually like that. And so yeah, I'm glad people enjoy that.
Did you ever find out who's that Antarctica Army is?
No, I'm still trying to find it. I've talked to other people who have used other programs and have found some Antarctica Army. I think there's thought that maybe it's just somebody who like has a VPN set to there, or like has their location set to there, and like that's certainly possible. I don't know.
Like who set their VPN to Antarctica?
I don't know. know. You know, some people like to put their locations to like fun things, and I did clarify though. I was talking to a representative from TrendsMap about this because I had so many questions about it. They did say that if someone sets their location to something like non-existent, like you know, you see like some silly things on there sometimes, like that does not get counted on the map. So
Like someone setting to a Mordor or something.
yeah, something like that. So but if I don't know, I hope one day if there is an Antarctica army, we do find whoever that person or persons are. I think it would be fun. I do know someone sent me this like a couple weeks ago. There was an article a while back about how there was like a Blackpink fan in Antarctica. Like there was a researcher who listened to K-pop, and they did like a story on him. So it's certainly possible that like perhaps maybe a researcher in Antarctica is like tweeting about certain things at certain moments, because I imagine that if someone had their location set to Antarctica and they were an army, that we would see it a lot, but we only have seen it like once or twice.
But maybe they're like going on a mission to research.
Maybe, I don't know, who knows. But I think that's definitely been one of my favorite parts of the map, is like people who have pointed out that there was a dot in Antarctica, or like a dot in other places that we wouldn't expect, like Greenland or Iceland. And you know, you see all those tiny little dots in the water, which are islands. I know that people ask about these all the time. It's like really funny, where they're like, oh, there's armies in the water, like are they on boats? Like no, they're islands. like Hawaii on like the far left of the map, like it's Hawaii, for instance. I've had to also educate myself more on like geography as I've done, because I've learned way more about where things are than I ever thought I would know. But yeah, I think like a cool part of the map,
you learn as an army, right? Like,
I think a cool part about it too, though, is like the fact that we're seeing dots in like all these random places is, you know, there's certainly like a good chunk of it that is real, whether or not people set their locations to something that is totally off. But I mean, like collectively, when you look at the map, it's kind of this like realization that like, wow, you know, BTS really reaches people in like every part of the world, because you know, there are still people out there like on the outside who seem to think that BTS is still limited to just like Asia, but it really isn't. And so these are just fun little, you know, proof and visualization to show people like this is worldwide. It's pretty awesome.
I always have those maps in mind when like we talked about the radio play in the US. And we talked to one of those DJs there, that he decided that he wants to heal and fix the relationship that Army has with DJs, because we're so angry about that with them, like in general. And he decided that he wants to create a positive communication. And you talked to him actually, right? What's his name? Adam or something?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I talked to him as well, like in DMs after you did. And I told him like, he kept saying like, people in Atlanta won't like what people in LA like. And first of all, BTS sold out in Atlanta as well. So, and B, like people like them all over the world. Yes, the US is a very, 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 very big country, but people relate to them all over the world. So saying someone in Texas, which they sold out there as well, will not like the same music that someone in New York does. It's like, it's people like him that have those misconceptions that create the problems in the first place, because they decide like, people in Texas won't get into it. That's like, that's problematic, a problematic way of thinking all on its own.
I know this is the whole radio debate. It's certainly frustrating, right? Because we hear time and time again that, you know, they seem to think that the popularity isn't there, but like it is there. And I think the big question is, you know, people have asked me before, is like, how's it possible that a group like BTS that, you know, brings an audience essentially, and if we think that radio needs a bigger audience, I mean, first off, do they? I don't know. There's debates on whether or not radio is dying, right? But in essence, with that aside, if playing BTS can bring like a whole new audience to you and bring new support, like why wouldn't you play it? It just, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. And I know that they have their own like process and system and like whatever, but yeah, it's certainly baffling. Like why wouldn't you want to play the biggest group in the entire world? And and they've seen how armies, you know, are
Operate.
on social media. Like they'll promote you like all day long if you're supportive of that. So yeah, it's, I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I we actually have here on this channel, if you guys want to see, we have like I think like an hour and a half or 2 hours just talking about the radio gatekeeping and problems, and we took what Adam said and we broke it down line by line with facts on why everything he said is BS.
Right. Yeah, it's, I don't know, it really is baffling that that's the case. But you know, I think armies are doing a great job just promoting them in any way they can anyway. So
Yeah. It really makes that power of the fandom, I think, even more amazing to see a group that doesn't get the radio play has a fandom that still keeps growing in like majorly growing, not like little growth, like it's growing by the minute, by the day, by the second. And to see that everyone is so connected to each other, even though they're from all over the world and speaking all these languages and coming from so many different diverse backgrounds and ages and genders and like all of that, to see everyone light up that map, it's
it's amazing. I'm so impressed by Army every day, and I have no doubt that this is just going to keep getting even bigger. So we'll just have to wait and see what else happens.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to see the TED Talk about fangirls?
I have. I saw that a while back. Yeah.
Yeah. It was more centered on One Direction, but it really, for me, like I know she did like everything over the top. So and I really recommend. I'll put the link in the description for those who want to check it out, because it really moved me, as because I've been a football fan or a soccer fan for years, and to see the difference between how their fandom acts and how they're taken by an outsider compared to how a boy band fandom is taken, it's night and day. It's like completely different.
Yeah, I know. I love that TED Talk. And I'm the same as you. I grew up playing sports. I was a big athlete, big sports fan. And that was kind of like the aspect of my life that people were like, oh, that's like so cool, you know, like look at you, like kind of one of the guys. Yeah, you play sports and like that's awesome. But also like while I loved sports and was like a big sports fan, I also at the same time was like a big like fan of boy bands. But then like those same people who were like, oh cool, like we love that you love sports, are like, wait, like that's weird. And so it was like it was strange, right? Because it was almost like, where do I fit like with these people? Like it's great that they loved that I played sports, but like it was like, but I just didn't understand why people had to look down on that other aspect of like the boy band kind of thing. And it is, I don't think that people think enough about this. I mean, I put out one of those like Venn diagram charts once where it shows like the similar characteristics of sports fans and then like boy band fans. And there's so many similarities, obviously, but people don't think about it, right? And there's obviously like a male dominated side and then female dominated side, and that obviously comes into play in the way people perceive these two, which is certainly a shame. But yeah, it's definitely frustrating. So
yeah, it's especially frustrating when you think about the contribution a fandom like Army has done. Like most male dominated fandoms don't get a lot done. Like football fans are known for their brutality and violence, and like there are thousands of horror stories about stuff they've done. No one looks down on them for that. You have even like recently there was the it's not exactly geek, but you had the, I'm trying to think how to say it. You had the movie Justice League come out, and there was a director's cut, the Snyder's cut, and it didn't come out. Like there was a whole thing there. The director got he had to leave for a personal thing. last minute, and a different director came instead, Joss Whedon came instead, and the moment the movie came out, people were like, we want the original cut. And people have been demanding it for 2 years, and finally now they got it. They will get that Snyder's cut. But all they did, and like people really, all these media outlets really said like, oh, the fandom, they pulled through, they did so much, they got the movie they wanted, and they donated for a suicide charity. Suicide prevention charity. So they donated a little bit, and they had money to put on billboards. They did so much for that movie.
Yeah.
And people almost completely ignored the fact that half of that fandom was incredibly toxic. If you said anything, even I'm not saying all of it. Obviously, there's bad apples everywhere. We have them there. Every fandom has them. But that fandom was really aggressively moved, as most male dominant fandoms move. And here, like, you have this fandom that does so much good for years. It's not like temporary, and it's not to achieve one thing. It's not, we don't have one goal. And yet that fandom is a lot easily disregarded.
Yeah, it is frustrating, and certainly a shame that they're missing out on those aspects of good that a lot of, especially ARMY, and fandoms similar to ARMY, like, that are more female dominated, for sure. It's interesting, even during this time, right, with ARMY and K-pop fans being in the spotlight, like, when I say everyone, like, people on the outside are treating it as this kind of new phenomenon, but it's like, ARMY especially has been doing this for years, and have so many, like, just looking at one in ARMY's map and the activities they have archived. There's like over 600 fundraisers and charities that have been supported by ARMY, but obviously people don't talk about it as much, which is a shame. But obviously now it's getting some sort of attention, but I think that's what a lot of ARMYs are telling even media, is like, well, but this isn't new, like, you just haven't been paying attention. Exactly. So hopefully the conversations that we're having now are hopefully going to bring attention to what we've been doing for a long time as a fandom, and hopefully it helps to shift the narrative a little bit over time. But all we can do, right, is to continue educating people and informing them with all the information we have. But just again, like, the importance of documenting these things, because otherwise people outside wouldn't even know it, right? The fact that one in an ARMY even has like an archive and like a map of all of these different fundraisers, like, it's pretty amazing. And so if we didn't have that, we wouldn't really have things to back up all of what we're saying. So yeah, hopefully more people start to pay attention now.
Yeah. I had something. No, wait, it skipped. Oh, that's so frustrating. I was just about to say it, it was when in ARMY we donated just this year $2 million already. We're only halfway through 2020.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to say it wasn't just the donations, it was but well, no.
When you think about it.
Yeah. Probably like tomorrow, or when I go to bed, it's like, oh.
Right.
Yeah. Do you find like that ARMY behaves differently from other fandoms?
That's tough to say. I don't necessarily think that they're different. I think that in terms of like strategies and in terms of that type of thing, they're different there for sure. But it's interesting, right? Because we do see similar characteristics across fandoms, and like I've said, right, like even looking at the One Direction fandom, there's so many similarities between the two groups. But then what we saw with ARMY is kind of what happened when social media just started to evolve, and ARMY really did a great job evolving with it. Especially the fact that they're so savvy and so strategic and just a lot smarter with utilizing these types of tools and taking advantage of it. And I know that there's this question of, well, why is it just BTS fans and just BTS who have kind of blown up in this way, and why not others? And I feel like that's such a complex question is like a mix of so many different things. I mean, first off, again, we can't ignore the fact that social media has helped to be like this driving force to make it even more global and to be able to spread that message. But then we also need to acknowledge the fact that there's people who are translating all of this content and allowing BTS's music and message to be able to spread to different countries and to different people. And then the message itself is like so unique, right? And resonates with so many different people. So I feel like BTS in itself is so complex, and ARMY is so complex, but they make it work, and they've made it quite a success. But I don't think that we've seen all of those like ingredients in different fandoms. I think that they have like pieces of that, but not like that complete picture. So I think that's what separates ARMY. But I think that fans themselves are all very similar across the board, and just they want to support their idols, right, in whatever way they can. But I think that again, ARMY is kind of, they've taken it kind of like next level, where they're like, okay, we support our idols just like everybody else, but like in what ways can we like take it to another level? And that kind of feels like that's what they do all the time.
Exactly. I think that like the big difference between ARMY and for the One Direction fandom, for the Directioners, right?
Directioners, yeah.
Directioners is that when you're like, Directioners had One Direction music from the get-go, right? They were in X Factor, right? One Direction, it came from X Factor, and then they were immediately on radio, classic boy band, immediate fandom. And with ARMY, I think first the original growth was very gradient, it happened gradually, and also it was constant battle. They really move more like a grassroots movement, and they with constant fights, and like all those adversities, they create this inner strength and this connection between ARMY, but also between ARMY and BTS themselves. And you see, and with social media, that connection can flourish and grow. And with each time, like, the thing is that adversity doesn't go away, because they constantly face it. They're still not played on radio. They still get articles written about them, like that god awful THR article. They still constantly have to face those stereotypes and all those different obstacles. And that those obstacles, like, I obviously wish they never would have faced any of them.
Right.
But those obstacles do strengthen the fandom and create this almost like this compulsory need to protect them, to be there with them, to help them on their way, because they can't do it alone.
Yeah, I mean, fans feel really empowered to support them and to fight for them and help them overcome all of that, right? Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, that I tell people this all the time. I mean, we can look at ARMY as a case study of how to utilize like really great grassroots efforts and strategies, because that's where like the heart of all of this engagement is, right? They're engaged because of that. It's real and genuine, and it's so amazing to see. And most fandoms are built on that little bit of grassroots strategies, but I agree with you, like having that aspect of the adversity is something that we didn't really see too much in like One Direction, right? Yeah, they were a boy band and they were criticized because they were boy bands and people made fun of that, but like they still were like in that Western culture and were big, and people didn't look at them in the way that they look at BTS still, which is so fascinating to me, right? Because I think as big as they are and everything that they've accomplished, people sometimes in our Western culture still look at them like they're like this strange thing, where at this point it's been a couple of years and they've had a lot of success. You would think that people would look at them a little bit more like, normal, I guess, but obviously that's not the case. But that, again, like you were mentioning, it just fuels ARMY to just keep going and to keep pushing and to keep promoting them even harder. So yeah.
I also think like you see like because they're not out there, you don't really see them too much on TV, too much on radio, or at all on radio, but they're not front and center, that every person that finds them feels like they discovered them, like
Yeah,
we found this amazing group, and that fall down that rabbit hole. And when you see all that content that's out there, and you and you really feel like you just went through this journey by yourself, discovered something that wasn't there before.
Yeah, I agree. I think every army story has like that similarity to it, right? Which is really special, and also speaks to like that passion that they have for BTS. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see like that journey that people take to, from like, oh, okay, I don't know who these people are, and then like going to being like casually listening, and then like going full force into it. So
yeah. I remember what I wanted to say before came back, that like we were talking about all those how we try to change the narrative and make sure like that the story is heard, that they're treated fairly and all that. But it's kind of, because it's us saying it, it kind of feels like it's literally preaching to the choir, because we already know all that. We're talking to ourselves, like, and whenever we try to talk to someone outside, they immediately have that it's not even math, it's like what's it called, it's like it prevents them from listening.
Right.
Partition, it's like a partition that falls down. They're not there with you.
Yeah.
Immediately you're biased, you can't be objective about it. I just a friend of mine, like, oh, it's so annoying. This guy here did an article about how the reason why K-pop is not succeeding here. Obviously they have no idea what K-pop actually is. They don't know the difference between, like, for them, BTS, Blackpink, it's all the same.
Right.
Yeah, and they did, and so they did that, and this guy, because obviously every time someone sees the word K-pop, they immediately contact me. So he sent me this article, and I said, okay, there are a lot of like things like majorly wrong here, but fine, whatever. Like, you know, it's all commercial. Like everything is planned for them. The dancing boot camps, all the classic stuff. And I'm like, okay. And I sent him, and I said, like, people here like more R&B type of songs. No one here listens to R&B. And immediately I sent him like Singularity, and I said, okay, this song was written by a band member. It's R&B completely. It has like a complete, it's actually a song with depth. It's referencing Greek mythology, like everything, single thing like that article said. This song is the opposite of that. And he said, okay, but this is one example. I was like, I can give you a ton more. And he said, besides, I don't think K-pop will continue. Listen, like, because they have that. I was like, listen, we're gonna have a long talk about this, and I'll explain to you. First, you need to understand what K-pop is, and the fact that even the term K-pop is flawed. And then we can have a conversation about how much this is just a temporary phenomenon versus something that will stick and progress and catch up. And he said, but you're not objective about it. Told him we're gonna sit and we're gonna talk for like 3 hours, and I'm gonna say facts to you, and then we can talk about like objective, not objective stuff. But first you need to understand the subject, because you don't.
That's so frustrating. Yeah, I'm sure we've all kind of had those experiences for sure. Yeah, it's frustrating when people don't have an open mind to it. And I think like this is such a great point, because even as researchers, like this is something like I've struggled with too, right? Is being a fan, but also being like a researcher of the thing that I'm like a fan of. And I think in the beginning, when I first started using this account, I was nervous about it, because I was like, are people gonna look at me with this bias and like take it seriously? You know, but I think for people like me and others who do research on BTS and ARMY, it's super important to have that balance, because like I said, I think some people think like to eliminate that bias you should be, you know, so removed from it and not even involved. But like I mentioned this earlier, you can only scratch the surface if you're on the outside, because there's so many complex things that happen within the fandom on the inside, and things like what you were saying about Singularity and like the meanings of the songs, and like, you know, learning more into it. Like these are things you wouldn't even think about looking into unless you were really in the fandom. And so I think for a lot of us who are armies and doing research, like we obviously want to be as objective as possible, but but taking advantage of the fact that we're a part of this and we're able to speak on it more in depth than most people are able to. I think that's really important too. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame that people look at anyone who's in Army as being completely biased, and I'm sure that there's some people who are, but in speaking about objective things, like you were saying, I mean, you were only presenting the fact that like this is what the song means, this is like,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. Yeah, I get it. It's tough to speak to people who already have this like perception of K-pop in general, and then, you know, taking whatever they think about that and then projecting it onto BTS, when it's like so hard to really like lump all of that together, which obviously we're seeing quite a bit of right now too. And so it is a little frustrating, but I think that it's also an opportunity, especially right now with media, to help as best we can to educate and inform them. And we hope, I guess, that they take that from us. And that's all we can do at this point. So
Definitely. We're kind of done.
awesome.
We did 3 hours.
which didn't feel like it.
It didn't feel like it. It never feels like it. We always like have so much. It's just so much fun to talk to fellow Army and chat and yeah, it never feels like it always passes so quickly.
Yeah, and there's like so much more that we can talk about beyond this too, like never ending. Yeah, so but I enjoyed this. I really appreciated you having me on here. So
that's awesome. You're always welcome here.
Awesome.
Whether it's to talk more about your research or just to have fun. I intend this podcast to be just a platform for all Army who want to talk, just like have fun talking about Army stuff and BTS. Because like I said, not a lot of us have people in our real life to talk about.
Oh yeah.
So the whole point is just because it's just to give people a chance to actually voice and not just write what they say. Yeah. So you're always welcome here, and this was super fun.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'm so glad you came here. Like this was so interesting and so much fun. And your research sounds fascinating, and I can't wait to be able to read it when it comes out.
Thank you. I'm excited for everything to come. So yeah, there'll be a lot.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah, great. So everyone, good night or good day, depends on what your time zone is. And thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. Send a lot of purple hearts for Nicole, Nicole's way. And thank you and goodbye.